All
Hi,
right, let me.
David. Watch your pass, man. Oof, that's like I feel like I'm back in college. I gotta
I know, pass fail,
study.
right? Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Pass. Today I'm joined by Conor Allyn, the co-writer and director of In the Fire, which is coming to digital and on demand on October 13th, 2023. I'm going to talk to him right now. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. I'll spend a lot. Thank you. So thanks so much for joining me today. I've got Conor Allyn, the co-writer and director of In the Fire, which is coming to digital and on demand on October 13th, 2023. It is a kind of slow burn horror Western film that has really beautiful cinematography, a really kind of fantastic setting, and some big surprises along the way. I'm very excited to talk to you about this. I want to hear more about how this was made. So thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Of course. So, you are a co-writer of this. When did you get involved? Was this kind of like your idea, or did you jump on with some other people to kind of like
Yeah.
flesh out the script?
So I was the sort of originating writer on the first draft. As my wife told me recently, she said, "Oh, all your scripts they always have to do with exiles and outcasts." And I guess I had some formative years in middle school where I was feeling as such, and that comes out in my writing, whether I want it to or not. I think. Um,
Those
so
scars run deep, it seems, right?
exactly, this is my own version of therapy. Um, so I that's probably the genesis of it all. And I love history, so finding unique world building places to create an atmosphere is really exciting to me as a storyteller. And so in this one, we took, in the exiles and outcasts department, we have this little boy who's living in this remote valley in South America, and he's different. He's different physically, and he's different emotionally and psychologically from everybody else. And the local villagers interpret that as some sort of demonic possession, and they blame this kid for everything that goes wrong. And so he's been ostracized from his community. His own father blames him for the death of his wife, and then in comes this doctor, Amber Heard's character, and she also is kind of an exile. She's a female doctor in a time when there weren't any. She's an alienist, which is like a psychologist of that period, which was not a respected science at all at that time. And so, she's had to travel to the ends of the earth just to find an opportunity to prove herself. And shows these two exiles end up forming a relationship.
Exactly. You were talking about the kid, and I was like, but Amber's character is also an exile as well. But you went right into that as well. I liked kind of the symmetry there, and I do love that like your therapy, you get paid for to do your therapy, so that actually kind of
Not
works
a
out really
lot,
well.
not a lot, but it is better than paying somebody else.
Exactly, exactly. I've seen how much they cost per hour. This is
Right.
much better. So you co-wrote this. You also directed this. I assume, were you always kind of set to direct this? Were you writing this with the idea that you would direct it, or was this one of those things where you got the
Yes.
script and you're like, I need to get this made. I guess I'll
I
do it
don't
myself.
I don't always direct everything that I write. I write stuff that other people direct, but um, I always write it with directing in mind. I'm writing it thinking, okay, if I were directing this scene, what would I want? But this was really personal one for me. This was a big passion project. I loved this film right away from the page, and I wanted to direct this. This was my baby.
For sure. I know. And I can tell the love that went into this just with some of the ways that like some of the camera shots and just kind of like the way that you like lovingly created this world. One thing I'm curious, this is a kind of a horror-ish thriller kind of film. Was it always set that way? Was it always kind of set in this kind of like more sinister environment, or did
Yeah,
that?
it's always kind of I have a great love for horror films. This is not really quite a horror film, so I would say this is more of a gothic thriller because it's taking the some inspiration from other films of demonic possession like The Omen or The Exorcist, but turning those on their head a little bit to have like a more ambiguous relationship between is this little kid, is there a possession, is he demonically possessed, does he have supernatural powers, or is he just different, is he just ostracized because he's weird. And there were in this period uh misdiagnosed mental illnesses that made people think that people were possessed, and then those people were often burned alive or thrown off a cliff or what have you. And I wanted to kind of keep the history a little bit more authentic feeling to that and let the audience be a part of that diagnosis of, the character of Grace. The doctor shows up and she's making her diagnosis. She's seeing things she can't quite explain with her medicine, and we get to make those same observations.
Yeah, exactly. So horror, but kind of like horror of the situation, not like pure horror. And then also, you mentioned a question I think a lot of parents have asked, like, is my kid possessed or is this just a like
I
8-year
have
old?
3 kids, and I often think that one of them for sure is possessed and could use either a priest or a really, really good alienist to come.
Exactly, exactly. As long as you outnumber that one possessed one, you should be okay. Just the problem is when
Yeah,
it spreads, then you have the issue. So you mentioned Amber Heard's character Grace. How did Amber get involved in this? Had you worked with her before, or were you just kind of shopping around the scripts and she kind of,
so
connected with
we
her?
met each other. I had written a TV pilot that was a true story about a serial killer in Colombia, and I met her on that. And even though that show has never gotten made yet, I formed this relationship with Amber, and learned about her. She and learned some things I didn't know. She lived in Mexico City, spoke fluent Spanish, was an avid reader, loved history, and was this kind of like fearless truth teller who sticks to her convictions, whether they get her in hot water or not. And there was some great connection to this character of Grace, who's literally, sticks to her convictions,
Mhm.
even when she gets dragged through the public square and whipped and beaten. And so when that TV show didn't move forward, I shared the script with her, and fortunately for me, she immediately connected with that material as well.
That is quite a trade up, right? Like you think TV show, but now you get full on movie. That's fantastic.
You never know what's gonna you never know what's gonna happen. Yeah,
Yeah, that I do. It's so interesting that her like personality meshes really well with this Grace character. Because yeah, you're right. When you're describing her and her interests, it like fit perfectly with this character that you were already creating. So it almost seems fortuitous that you were
sure.
able to
And
get her
yeah,
involved.
and not a coincidence that I met her and was like, oh, this you would be a great Victorian era doctor, and also not a coincidence. I think that she read it and was like, oh, I feel, I think great actors really, they do need to feel a connection to that character and find that truth in it. And I think she very quickly made that connection.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I've loved about this movie is just like I don't know the way it was shot. Like the style was just fantastic. There's one shot that I kept like looking at where you have one of the priests who I think he normally wears like a white get up, but he has like a black cape on. And there are a lot of scenes where you very smartly like framed him so you just see like the top of the black cape up, and it makes his character just seem so much darker. Like it was just wonderful. Is that like part of your
Yeah,
style? How much like
that was definitely sort of purposeful in the sense that we have. I didn't want a religion to just be the bad guy. So I think it's too easy to just say, oh well, religion's bad. This guy's he's trying to exorcise this little boy, and it's not fair, and he's evil. And so we have 2 priests in the movie. One who's more of a zealot and is trying to do the right thing for his community by basically trying to kill this little boy, and another priest who sort of sees things the way they are and thinks that maybe God is working through Grace, the doctor who's shown up to help this kid. And we wanted to differentiate these 2 priests and have them look and feel and act different. And so we used some different coloring, different camera work to accentuate that.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And the film is called In the Fire. There is actually a fairly legit fire scene in this movie. I assume that was
Yeah,
all
you gotta have a fire.
practical
If you're
fire.
gonna name the movie In the Fire, you better get some flames going.
Yeah, but a lot of times with indie films, you'll have like like CG flames. But this, I'm pretty sure this was pure. Like you just burned a large
Oh yeah, we
building. Like
burned a building to the ground. There is some, so we did embellish a lot of real flames going on. We had flame bars and lit the barn on fire. But for scenes where animals, horses, and things were inside the barn while we were burning it, and of course our actors and our crew are in there as well. I'm in there. We didn't want that thing coming down on us, so we had sort of controlled flames, and then we added some additional flames in CGI. But as long as you have a lot of practical fire in the scene, you can add a bit more in visual effects without making it look hokey. which of course we did not do.
Yeah, no, that is a testament to how good that scene looked because I didn't even notice it. And CG is like one of my big pet peeves. And I was like, this is like exciting. Like this is bigger than most indie films have. Like,
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, there's nothing worse than like being into a movie and then seeing something stupid.
yeah, exactly. And another thing I noticed I really loved is the music was just beautiful, like very kind of simple, dark, gothic, kind of what you described the tone as. You know,
Glad,
who
yeah.
did that
An
music and
Italian composer named Tejo Teardo did the music. He's wonderfully talented. Um, has worked with some of the best Italian filmmakers, um, and we managed to get him to lean into this movie, and he really, really emotionally connected to it. His own son has some mental health issues, and so he really found a connection to the story, and I think did wonderful work
yeah,
with this.
no, exactly. I noticed there was some really beautiful cello music at part of it, and like my daughter is like learning cello, so I was like, oh, that's like a nice kind of little undertone for this film. Um, so I know we have limited time. I'm going to switch to, I call it the lightning round. They're just very lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how your personal experiences map to things in the movie. You can feel free to skip any of them. I will not be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable.
Right.
First question is, are you a religious person?
Yeah, mixed. I'm like the movie. I went to Catholic school all the way through university, from kindergarten through university. So I'm wildly familiar with it. I've seen religion do the best things in the world, and I've seen religion be the cause of a lot of hate and angst too. So I'm trying to have an honest interpretation of what religion can be and what it is also.
That makes a lot of sense given that you wrote this film. It feels like, you have to have a good kind of basis in doctrine. So that makes sense. The film starts with a baptism scene. I assume you were baptized since you went to Catholic school your entire life, but just curious.
Yes, I am baptized, and I really enjoyed that baptism scene. We shot that up in that's actually a volcanic pool in in the mountains of Guatemala, and it
Oh,
was
that's
quite
so
a
cool.
cool scene.
That is so cool. Um, what is the last time that you rode a horse?
Last time that I personally was on a horse,
Mhm.
at some point during this movie, I think I jumped on a horse.
There we go. That works too.
I have
Uh,
a lot. There's a lot of horses in this movie, and some of the others I've done. So I'm from Texas. I pretend to be like many Texans from urban parts of Texas. We pretend to be cowboys, but we're not really.
well, it's ingrained in you, right? It's just
Yeah,
natural. So just like I'm from California, I can probably
you
surf.
can
I
surf.
never
Yeah,
have, but yeah.
yeah.
Can you play the violin?
No.
No. Uh, have you ever grown your own food?
Yes.
And it was successful? There were no locusts or anything?
Yeah, I don't think there were any locusts. I mean, I'm not say we're crushing it. We have a garden on our roof that we garden with the kids, and they grow, super basic stuff, and I enjoy it very much. And it's not economical. I've definitely spent way more gardening than whatever fruit have been born from that, but I enjoy the experience of it very much. Yeah.
And you taste that extra love. And the last question is, did you do anything as a kid that people would think is like peculiar or different?
So many things. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if we're going to stick to the filmmaking portion of it, well before I ever thought that I would have a career in the profession, um, I made a lot of films as a kid, with my parents' camera, and my brother and I would strap fireworks on ourselves to do the special effects, and so it like set the camera up and then like run it, like tape a we're doing like a war scene, right? Like tape fireworks to our chest, and I would so proudly show it to my parents and be like, look what we did, look at this awesome scene, and they'd be like, what is wrong with you? You almost killed your little brother, and you know, I
That
guess
it, no, that is amazing. I'm glad that you survived. Well, I know that you survived. I assume your brother also survived. That is fantastic.
yeah, he's only got 8 fingers now, but he's fine.
Yeah, you only need probably six max, so he's fine.
Yeah.
And so the film is out on October 13th, 2023 on digital and on demand. You are out promoting the movie, getting the word out, but I imagine you probably have other stories to tell, other things you're going to be working on. So after people see In the Fire, what can they look for next from you?
Well, I'm working on a another period movie that's set in the ancient Greek period, um, sort of a unique thriller with a new direction that's also deep in history. So hopefully that's the next one.
Excellent. Another historical thriller. I'm excited to see that too. But first, people can check out In the Fire. Like I said, it comes to digital on demand October 13th, 2023. This is the co-writer and director, Conor Allyn. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks, David.
That was Conor Allyn, the co-writer and director of In the Fire, which is coming to digital and on demand on October 13th, 2023. It is an atmospheric horror Western film, has really great cinematography, a slow building story, and some big surprises along the way. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.